With less than 100 days to go until the midterm elections, we're taking a look at the key races to watch. Joining me now is CBS News Director of Elections and Surveys, Anthony Salvanto. Anthony, nice to see you again.
Hi, Elaine.
So let's start with some of these competitive House races and take a look at your map here. What do the districts actually have in common?
A lot in terms of their affluence, really. One of the things that's striking, and we're going to look coast to coast, from New Jersey to California, at some of these competitive places. They are, on average, more affluent, a little bit higher household wealth than districts across the country otherwise. And that's important because it also means that they have proportionally more college-educated voters, and we know from talking, our viewers know, that those are the kinds of voters Democrats are trying to peel off. They've seen some softness in the polling towards the president, and so that's why they're targeting a lot of these places. But, and this is a very big but, those folks are also saying that they're doing a little better or that the economy is good. So I think the back and forth there is going to be, all right, they may not be entirely thrilled with the president, but if they're saying that the nature of the times, that things are going okay, then that may be a compelling argument for them to stay with a Republican House. And I think that's one of the big things to watch.
So based on your research and polling, which party right now has the best shot to take control of the House next year?
I think it's a toss-up. I really do. Our most recent estimate, which we did a couple of weeks ago, had the House going into toss-up status, by which I mean the Democrats would be in position to gain seats. I don't think it'll surprise anyone if they gain seats. The question will be how many they can pick up. They can get that 24 that they need. Now, out of 435 seats, okay, we see 50, maybe 60 at the outside that are really competitive. So that gives them a chance to pick that up because not every seat's going to flip, but of course the competitive ones are more likely to. Yet, historically, in an era where people are very strictly partisan, where 9 in 10 partisans stay with their party, when 9 in 10 incumbents get reelected, you see these sort of structural advantages that districts already have in staying put. And so that makes it a little bit harder for any party to gain a huge number of seats. That's their challenge.
Well, you mentioned the economy a minute ago. What are some of the key campaign messages looking like across the country right now?
I think it starts there with the economy. Typically, we would see the party in power trumpeting, saying things are good, and we know that most people think they are. Yet at the same time, we also see these other issues where we see much more strong partisan splits. Immigration, for one. The president talks about how he's going to go out on the road and campaign, 6 or 7 days a week, as he said. Those are things, when he goes out there on the campaign stump, he's talking a lot about immigration. That's something that I think introduces a very different dynamic into the campaign that we pollsters are going to have to watch closely. You might think, if people think that's a problem, that then is balanced a very different message than saying things are good, and the economy is good. So that's one of them. The other thing for Republicans, too, that sort of we've noticed is one of their signature achievements was the tax package. But very few people comparatively say that they feel like they've personally been helped by the tax package. So what is it that Republican candidates go and do and talk about and sell in terms of specific policy? I think that's another key thing to watch. I've heard Republicans say that that's one of the messages that they feel like they still need to get across.
Yeah. Well, you've told us that it looks like Republicans have an edge when it comes to keeping control of the Senate. Why is that?
Well, it's the territory and it's the partisanship because Democrats are defending a lot of seats in what we'll call red states, and states that lean Republican otherwise. So you're going to be looking, if you were to go to the map, you would see that we would be looking at places like Montana, like Missouri with Claire McCaskill. That's a name we'll probably be looking at a lot in Missouri. We've got a tough race, I think, for Heidi Heitkamp in North Dakota. That's a Democrat sitting in a state that went heavily for President Trump last time. Most of these folks, all these folks, were elected in 2012. So that was when there was President Obama and his coattails and that kind of turnout. Now they're running in a different dynamic, and that kind of brings us to another big point, which is turnout. It's always a big thing in elections, but in midterms, you typically see maybe 36 to 40% of eligible voters show up. If that sounds low, it's because it is. And so if Democrats want to do better than expected here, certainly on the Senate side, they're going to have to change that equation. That's a big thing to watch. They're going to have to get higher than typical midterm turnout, and that'll be true across a lot of the states, including the red ones that they're trying to hold on in.
It'll be interesting to see how both sides try to get that base energized as the midterms approach. Anthony Salvanto, thanks so much, Anthony.
Thanks, Elaine.
The fate